You text me yesterday to tell me what is going on at the count in Rochdale.
I want this Labour pile someone having a look at this Labour pile. So a young lad came over, started pulling out 1 pack, 2 pack, 3 pack, 4, all my votes, which led to about 100 votes. And then the cats obviously looked through the rest of them and found another 2 packs of the Conservative vote, which led to 150 votes.
Hi everybody and welcome back to Nick Talks. This episode's guest is a friend of mine, Billy Howarth, who's an independent politician from Rochdale. He stood at many local council elections now and at the last 2 general elections or MP elections in Rochdale. First of all, Billy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nick. Nice to be here.
Nice for you to come on. You text me yesterday to tell me what is going on at the counts in Rochdale. For people who don't know, we didn't have any local elections in Greater Manchester, but Rochdale, there was a by-election for a council seat. So we had one council by-election in Rochdale, and you stood as an independent. Well done you for standing yet again. But something sneaky was going on there. What exactly went on at the count? And when I mean count, for people who don't know, that's when all the ballot papers are delivered. They're all on the table and people are physically counting them and putting them into small piles, depending on the political party. What happened at the count?
Well, it stemmed from earlier suspicions from previous elections, so I took it upon myself this time to make sure I had a team counting for my votes while I watched what was going on behind the vote. And it pretty much soon became clear, just for those that think I'm a sore loser, that I wasn't going to win after the first 35 minutes of the count. But what I was seeing was a really large reform vote. So we carried on. As we get nearer to the end, where the best way I can explain it is wine racks. But laid flat down on the table, so if you was to put a bottle in it, the bottle would be facing upwards like so, yeah? So the piles are put into bundles of 25. I know it's 50 at a general election, but at the council election, it's piles of 25, which are then rolled up and stuck into the wine slot. So again, it'll look like that, stuck in the wine slot. And pretty quickly, it became clear that our count wasn't matching up with what was in our slots. So I started to monitor the people who were taking from the table to the slots, and I noticed there was Labour's vote was massive, and it was getting bigger than Reform's. And I thought this doesn't match up. This doesn't match up. So I called over one of the heads of the electoral commission, one of the ladies who deal with by the name of Claire. I called her over and I said, "This doesn't mathematically add up. I want this Labour pile someone having a look at this Labour pile." So a young lad came over, started pulling out 1 pack, 2 pack, 3 pack, 4, all my votes, which led to about 100 votes. And then the cats obviously looked through the rest of them and found another 2 packs of the Conservative vote, which led to 150 votes. Now, I'm not great at maths, but if you look at the Labour candidate's total at the end, if you add 150 to that, she was elected to be the councillor of Balderstone and Cuckoo. Luckily, I called it out. They changed it, put it back to where it should have been, which led to Reform then being rightfully, because he'd won by a landslide in my eyes. It wasn't even that close. Won by a landslide. So then I raised the issue. And of course, at the time, I wanted a recount. Because, that's all you can ask for in a situation like that. I asked for a recount. I was told quite quickly by the CEO and returning officer, no, it's just a mistake. I made the point that mistakes cannot be made at a ballot counting. To keep the integrity of a ballot, there mustn't be a mistake. I went outside to cool down while they was all trying to sort it out, and I left my team inside watching, making sure no more got pulled out. And there was a police car in the car park. So I approached the officers in the vehicle, and I said, "I'm really not happy about this. I want you to come and have a look at what's gone on here." They walked in. The returning officer walked up to the cop and said, "It's just a simple mistake." So the officer then turned to me and said, "Right, listen, you need to calm down." And that's the video you see. But they accused me of swearing, kicking off, so on. And you've seen the videos, guys. Everyone else will see the videos. I was well within my right to raise my voice, but I did it in a democratic way. And thankfully, I was on the ball, because if I'd not seen it, we'd have been sat there the morning after with a Labour councillor who didn't have the right to be in the seat. It was won by reform.
Yeah. So you knew something was going on. Did you see who was carrying those bundles of 25 to the wine racks? Did you see who was doing that?
There was two people doing this. There's a man and another person, both of them doing this. So it could have only been one of the two.
One of the two. And then I saw some posts the next day. The woman who you said was carrying, the woman and the guy carrying the things, the ballots over to the wine rack. The woman, then there was a picture of her, and there's a picture of her at demonstrations as well. Socialist fundamentalists, or socialist this or socialist that, carrying banners. That looked to me as if it was the same woman. Now, there is somebody who's politically active and is actively involved in counting and securing a democratic election. That all looks dodgy to me.
That really, really is an absolute failure in the democratic process. That someone with so biased opinion. I mean, it's like putting me on the count.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's just like putting me on the count. No, I'm an activist against the Labour Party because of what it's done in the covering up of the abuse of children. It's like putting me on the count against them. They're supposed to be the Ben by third, and they can't even talk about the elections with anyone. These electoral stat. So the fact that she's been outed as someone who's on the front line of far left activism, if you like. And I've been penned something else out today, and I can't confirm or not deny, but that event she was pictured was supposed to be at an anti-reform demonstration, which shows you she's then obviously putting him into Labour. Now, the council are saying this is a mistake, so there's no debate to be had that this happened. This really happened. The council aren't denying it. What they're saying is a mistake, but what I'm also claiming is it was done by design. It was done on purpose. Now, there were 7 candidates in that election, Nick. It's virtually impossible to manoeuvre 4 lots of votes from one pile, 2 from another, and they all end up in Labour's box. That if it was a mistake, they'd have been in the Lib Dem box, or they'd have been in the Green box, but there wasn't. It was all put into the Labour pile, which is very, very suspect. Well, we will be following through with complaints on this issue, because obviously we can't change the result, and in the end, the result was right. But what we can change is try and stopping them from never doing this again anywhere else. Luckily, we caught them this time, and I believe I caught them breaking the law. But catching them and knowing it is different from proving it and getting action over it. You know yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to have the council tell you it was just a mistake, it may have just been a mistake. That is in the realms of possibility that was just a mistake. But to say, therefore, we don't have to investigate this, that's where I think the council have made a huge mistake there. It may have just been human error. But do you know what? At a general election, at a council election, when democracy is on the line, you should do more than just give a platitude that, oh, human error. I want it investigating. It needs to be investigating for two reasons. For the first reason is to ensure that it was a mistake, and to ensure that the people standing for election all feel, yes, it was a mistake and it was a fair election. That's extremely important, that you feel it was a fair election. And the second point is the most important point, to make sure it never happens again. So just to brush it off as a mistake doesn't tick any of those two boxes. So I mean, this doesn't surprise me from Rochdale Council, doesn't surprise me from any Labour run council. I've heard so many stories over the years, that it doesn't surprise me at all. What are you doing next now on this? How do you put an official complaint in? What's the procedure? What do you do next?
So before we go to that, I just want to point out the doxing in which took place almost immediately after by Labour and its partners. Now, it was said in some group comments that I was high on drugs, drunk. You know yourself, Nick, I don't drink. And the video shows I was completely within my faculties. The other one was I was the only person to raise the issue. The video also shows the Tory protesting, the Reform gentlemen protesting, and the Workers' Party guy. And thankfully, then two parties today have released statements saying that there was severe irregularities at this ballot. So, what am I going to do? We've written to the Electoral Commission, which I'm going to send you a screenshot of the email, and they've said they don't have any power to deal with this. It has to go to the returning officer and the CEO, who's the CEO, who was on site, who was there, and within a minute or two of this happening, he was stood there to my face telling me this is a mistake, as was the monitoring officer. So we're not holding our breath there, but we will be making, obviously, we're sending it to the electoral petition, and we're also Great Manchester Police will be reporting it to, as well as sending it to Westminster as well.
No, excellent. And I hope Reform see this video. I hope Reform understands that if it wasn't for you, their candidate wouldn't have won this local election. It was only you that made Reform win by seeing the cheating. Reform have the clout, the money to take this further. Reform should be fighting this now because their guy candidate won, but I'm sure this is happening all over the country. So they need to fight for this.
I have been made out to be a sore loser, but the mindset I've got is if the ward that I love, which is Walthamstow and Cookville, if they elect a Reform candidate, then it's a Reform candidate they should get, regardless of whether I win or not. They wanted him, so they should get him. And how the Labour think they are, or to the council, certain council officials think they are to be able to try and manipulate it so he doesn't win when that's who the people have chosen. That's the thing that got me frustrated the most.
No, absolutely. And what they're doing now is they're looking at character assassination now. You know, they're trying to say, you know, you're drunk, you're on drugs, you were violent, you were disorderly, you're just a sore loser. Let's say for a moment all that's true. Well, the returning officer said there was irregularities. They've already admitted 150 votes were in the wrong pile. So regardless of you and personality-wise, they've admitted something went wrong. The fact something went wrong means it needs to be looked into. This isn't about you. This is about the procedures. This is about them running fair and open elections, and that needs looking into.
Absolutely, I'm 100% with you. And again, for the main reason is to make it not happen again, to make sure that the people get who they actually vote for and not manipulation like. Here's the last thing, Nick. Sorry, I just want to point out what surprised me. Well, what I should have already expected really was the unified support for it. Now it wasn't just the Labour one. Yeah, we're happy with that. Yeah, just it's been fixed, mistake, no problem. Well, the Tories in the end, not the candidate, he was going mad, but the actual agent in the room said, no, we don't need a recount. We're happy it was a mistake. and then the Lib Dems who sat on the fence. So it was like the pre-uni party was summed up straight away and weren't bothered in. No suspicion with regards to anything, which kind of put me aback a little bit because they saw the same thing I did.
Well, to be fair, they're probably cheat just as much as a Labour council cheat in their areas. No, I, what's wrong with our politics isn't the Labour Party. What's wrong with our politics are all the mainstream parties. They're all as bad as each other in every way imaginable. Hence, they don't want this to be uncovered because they know then other areas of the country will find out it was a Tory council that was cheating, it was the Lib Dem council that was cheating. They're all at it because it's the uni party. Billy, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna.
No, thank you for having me.
We need this video watching far and wide because of this. No, we're not a banana republic. You know, we're not some tin pot dictator country where you can rig elections. You know, I'm quite happy having politicians I disagree with, but I'm only happy having them when I know it was a fair fight and the people wanted them. Then I'll accept that on the chin. But what I don't want is cheating and getting people we never wanted in the first place because they cheated. If you get any updates, let me know, and we'll do an update to this video.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Nick, for highlighting this because I believe it's really important. People see this, even if it's some other parties, they can know now at the next count, make sure you're on the ball, guys. Watch everything, film everything.
Well, do you know what? Up to seeing those videos, I've stood for elections now 4 or 5 times. I've never watched the counters because I've always thought to myself, they'll be accurate, they'll be fair. But watching what I watched yesterday, I'm thinking to myself, what an idiot. I may have won 1 or 2 of those elections I've stood in previously if I'd have been more on the ball and if I got people standing there watching the count.
So they tried to get away with Nick, but they would have done if it weren't for that pesky Billy Pag.
Well, and I'm so happy there is a pesky Billy Pag because we need you fighting child abuse. We need you to be elected at a local council level sometime. You'll always have my backing. You'll always have my support. Let's catch up again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.